Grab her, now. A hand clamped around Nia's wrist so hard it burned. She gasped, twisting instantly, but another grip locked onto her other arm before she could pull away. No, let me go. They yanked her forward. Her feet dragged across the floor, her body jerking as she tried to resist. The room spun around her, furniture blurring, shadows shifting, everything happening too fast to understand. Mom? Malik's voice cracked behind her. Nia's heart slammed. Malik, stay back, she shouted, trying to turn toward him, but the men didn't let her. Their grip tightened, forcing her forward again. Move, one of them snapped. I'm not going anywhere, she cried, fighting harder now, her muscles straining as she pulled against them. Let me go. One of them shoved her. Art. She stumbled, nearly falling, but they kept her upright just enough to drag her along. Stop fighting, the second man said coldly. You're making this worse. Please, my son, don't touch him, please. Nia's voice broke as panic took over, her eyes searching wildly for Malik. He was frozen near the couch, small, shaking, his wide eyes locked on her. That sight hit harder than anything. Something inside her snapped. Nia twisted violently, using all her strength trying to break free. Her arms slipped slightly in one man's grip, but not enough. Hold her properly, the other barked. I got her. They pulled again. Her shoulder screamed in pain. Stop, she cried, breath uneven, heart racing uncontrollably. Please just take whatever you want. They ignored her. One of them leaned closer, his voice low and sharp. You're coming with us. No, I'm not, she shouted back, shaking her head, desperation flooding her voice. I'm not leaving my son. Malik ran toward her. Mom? No, Malik, stay back, she yelled, fear surging as she saw him getting closer. One of the men glanced at him briefly. Leave the kid. Just take her, the other muttered. Nia struggled again, harder this time, her entire body resisting as they dragged her toward the door. Her feet scraped loudly against the floor. Her breathing came in sharp, broken bursts. Everything felt like it was closing in. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. Then, the window behind them exploded. Glass shattered across the room in a violent burst. The sound ripped through everything. The men froze. Nia stopped fighting. Malik went silent. For 1 second. Everything paused. Not calm. Not quiet. Just stunned. Shards of glass scattered across the floor, catching the light as they fell. And through the broken frame. Someone stepped in. He didn't rush. Didn't shout. Didn't even look at Nia. He walked forward slowly, like the chaos in the room didn't concern him. Like none of this surprised him. Water dripped from his coat. His shoes crushed lightly against broken glass with each step. The two men tightened their grip on Nia again, but something had changed. Their confidence. It slipped. Who is that? One of them muttered. No answer. Because neither of them knew. But they both felt it. The shift. The man stopped a few steps away. Close enough to see clearly. Tall. Unmoving. His eyes locked onto them. Sure. Focused. Cold. Nia felt it immediately. That presence. It filled the room without force, without noise, but it was there. Heavy. Unavoidable. Her fear didn't disappear. It twisted. Changed into something else. Something uncertain. Let her go, he said. His voice wasn't loud. But it didn't need to be. The command in it carried weight. The kind that didn't come from anger. The kind that came from certainty. The men hesitated. Just for a moment. A mistake. Because in the next second, everything shifted. The movement was sudden. Controlled. Efficient. Nia didn't even fully see it happen. One moment they were holding her. The next, their grip broke. Her arms were free. She stumbled backward, pulling Malik into her chest, her body shaking as she struggled to stay balanced. Her breath came fast. Too fast. Her mind couldn't catch up. She looked up. The two men were no longer standing the same way. Something had ended. Quickly. Quietly. Without chaos. Without struggle. And the man who came through the window. He stood exactly where he was. Calm. Untouched. Like nothing had happened at all. Malik clung to her tightly, burying his face into her shoulder. Nia held him, her arms wrapped protectively around him, but her eyes stayed on the stranger. Trying to understand. Trying to make sense of what she had just seen. But there was no explanation. Nothing about him made sense. The way he moved. The way he stood. The way he looked at the room like it already belonged to him. This wasn't normal. He wasn't normal. Her voice came out unsteady. Who are you? He didn't answer immediately. For a moment he simply looked at her. Not with concern. Not with softness. But not with cruelty either. Just awareness. Like he saw more than she understood. Then his gaze shifted briefly, scanning the room again, making sure nothing else moved, nothing else remained. Only when he was certain did he look back at her. Their eyes met. And something about that moment felt heavier than everything else that had just happened. Because this time, it wasn't fear she felt. It was realization. Slow. Unclear. But there. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. Steady. Unshaken. I'm the reason they're here. The words landed harder than anything else. Nia's grip tightened around Malik. Her heart dropped. Because somehow, even without understanding, she knew he wasn't lying. And that truth was more terrifying than the men who had just tried to take her. The market was already loud before the sun fully settled in the sky. Voices layered over each other, vendors calling out prices, customers arguing over change, metal pans clanging, footsteps moving in every direction. The air carried the smell of grilled meat, spices, and dust warmed by the afternoon heat. Nia stood behind her small food stand, moving quickly. 2 wraps, one with extra sauce, a man called. I heard you, she replied, already working, her hands steady despite the rush. The stand wasn't much. Just a narrow setup wedged between a fruit seller and a woman who sold fried snacks. A metal surface, a small burner, a cooler at her feet. That was all she had. But it was enough. It had to be. Mom, can I sit here? Malik asked, dragging a small plastic stool closer to the side. Not too close to the burner, Nia said without looking up. Stay where I can see you. Okay, he said, settling down with a small toy in his hands. She glanced at him quickly just to be sure. He was fine. Safe. That was all that mattered. Here, she said, handing over a wrapped order to a waiting customer. Be careful, it's hot. Thank you, the woman replied, already turning away. Nia wiped her hands on her apron and reached for the next order. There was no break. No pause. Just constant movement. The kind that kept her mind too busy to wander too far. Mom, Malik said again, looking up at her. Are we going home early today? Nia smiled faintly, though her hands didn't stop working. We'll see, she said. If we finish early. He nodded, satisfied with that answer, even if it wasn't certain. That was how things worked now. Nothing was ever fully certain. Another customer stepped up. Then another. Time moved quickly inside the noise of the market. But then, something shifted. Not loudly. Not suddenly. Just quietly. The people closest to her stand seemed to react first. A conversation cut short. A man who had been arguing suddenly stepped aside. Someone lowered their voice. Nia didn't notice it at first. She was too focused on her work. But then she felt it. That subtle change in the air. Like something unseen had just moved through. She looked up. And saw him. He stood a few feet away from her stand. Not in a hurry. Not impatient. Just there. Waiting. He didn't look like the usual crowd. His clothes were simple but sharp. Clean. Fitted. Nothing out of place. His posture was straight, controlled. And his eyes. They weren't scanning the menu. They were watching. Not in a way that felt intrusive. But not casual either. Focused. Observant. Nia held his gaze for half a second, then looked away, reaching for a flatbread. What do you want? She asked, her tone neutral, like she spoke to everyone else. No hesitation. No nervousness. He stepped closer. Whatever you recommend, he said. His voice was calm. Even different from the rushed, impatient voices she had been hearing all day. Nia nodded slightly. Then you'll take the beef wrap, she said. It's fresh. He didn't question it. Didn't ask for changes. Just watched as she prepared it. Her movements stayed the same, quick, practiced, but she was aware of him now. Of how still he stood. Of how quiet he was compared to everything else around them. Here, she said after a moment, wrapping it neatly and holding it out. He took it, then reached into his pocket. When he placed the money on the counter, Nia paused. It was too much. Far too much. She looked at it. Then at him. You gave me the wrong amount, she said. I didn't, he replied calmly. Nia shook her head, pushing part of the money back toward him. This is more than what it costs. Keep it, he said. She stopped. Then frowned slightly. I don't do that, she replied. His expression didn't change. It's not a problem. It is for me, she said, firmer now. Pay what it costs. For a brief moment, there was silence between them. Not uncomfortable, but noticeable. because this wasn't how these interactions usually went. Most people would have taken the extra without question. But Nia didn't. She kept her hand on the counter, the extra money still pushed toward him. Waiting. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Then, without argument, he picked up the excess and left the exact amount. "Thank you," she said simply. No smile. No extra warmth. Just fairness. He nodded once. And stepped aside. But he didn't leave. He stayed nearby. Eating slowly. Watching the movement of the market. Watching her. Nia didn't pay much attention after that. The next customer stepped forward. Then another. Work took over again. Minutes passed. Then more. When she looked up again, he was gone. And just like that, the moment ended. Or so she thought. The next day, he came back. Same time. Same calm presence. "What do you want?" she asked again. "Same thing," he replied. No hesitation. No small talk. Just consistency. She prepared the food. He paid the exact amount this time. Took it. Stepped aside. Stayed a little. Then left. And then the next day, he came again. And the next. And the next. It became a pattern. Not loud. Not obvious. But steady. Nia didn't question it. Customers came and went all the time. Some returned. Some didn't. That was normal. But there was something different about him. Not in what he did, but in how he existed. Every time he showed up, that same quiet shift followed. People gave space without being told. Voices softened slightly. Movements adjusted. Like the market itself made room for him. Nia noticed the space, but not the reason. To her, he was just another regular. One who didn't talk much. One who didn't complain. One who didn't waste her time. And that was enough. One afternoon, when the rush slowed down for the first time all day, he stayed a little longer than usual. Nia wiped down the counter, taking a short breath. Malik sat nearby, drawing something on a piece of paper. For once, there was quiet. Not complete, but lighter. He stepped closer again. Not as a customer this time. Just closer. Nia looked up at him. Waiting. "What is it?" she asked. He studied her for a moment. Not her food. Not the stand. Her. Then he asked, "Has anyone been asking about you?" The question caught her off guard. Her brow furrowed slightly. "What do you mean?" she asked. But he didn't answer immediately. He just watched her. And for the first time, something about him didn't feel neutral anymore. It felt intentional. And Nia felt it. Not fear. Not yet. But something close to it. Something that didn't belong in her normal day. Something that didn't belong in her life. And suddenly, the noise of the market didn't feel as loud anymore. It started small. So small that Nia almost ignored it. A man stood near her food stand one afternoon, not ordering, not speaking, just watching. At first, she thought he was waiting for someone. People did that sometimes. They stood around, checked their phones, then left. But he didn't leave. He stayed longer than most. Long enough for her to notice. Long enough for it to feel strange. "Are you buying something?" she asked eventually, not looking directly at him as she wrapped an order. The man didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Not today." His voice was flat. Uninterested. Nia nodded once and went back to work. He left a few minutes later. That should have been the end of it. But the next day, another man came. Different face. Same behavior. Standing nearby. Watching. And again. No order. No reason to be there. Nia felt it this time. That quiet discomfort settling under her skin. When he finally stepped forward, it wasn't to buy food. It was to speak. "You're Nia, right?" Her hands paused. Just for a second. "Yes," she said slowly. The man nodded like he already knew. "You should be careful," he added. Her brow tightened slightly. About what? But he didn't answer. He just gave her a long look. Then turned and walked away. Nia stood there, still holding the wrap she had been preparing. Her mind didn't settle easily after that. The words stayed with her. Not clear. Not direct. But enough to leave a mark. That night she locked her door twice. Checked the windows. Stayed up longer than usual. Malik slept peacefully beside her, unaware of the tension building around them. Nia watched him for a long time before finally closing her eyes. The next few days didn't get better. They got worse. The visits became more direct. Less subtle. Another man approached her stand, this time not pretending to blend in. "You've been hard to reach," he said. Nia frowned. "I don't know you." "You don't need to," he replied calmly. "We just need you to understand something." Her chest tightened. I'm working, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. If you're not buying anything, please move aside. But he didn't move. Instead, he leaned slightly closer. Darius Cole, he said. The name hit her like a sudden drop. Her expression changed instantly. What about him? She asked, her voice quieter now. The man watched her carefully. That's the right reaction, he said. Means you remember. Nia's fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. Say what you came to say. He owed money, the man continued. A lot of it. Her stomach turned. That has nothing to do with me, she said quickly. He's gone. Debts don't disappear like that. Her breathing slowed. But not in a good way. Then you're talking to the wrong person, she replied. The man shook his head slightly. No. We're talking to the right one. Nia felt the shift again. That quiet pressure pressing in. What do you want? She asked. For now, he said. Just awareness. He straightened, stepping back. But we'll be back. Then he left. Nia stood frozen behind her stand. The noise of the market continued around her. People moved. Voices carried. Nothing had changed. But everything felt different. She tried to focus on work again. Tried to move her hands the same way. But her thoughts wouldn't settle. Darius. She hadn't said his name out loud in a long time. Not since everything ended. Not since she had decided to move forward. To survive. But now. It was back. And it wasn't just a memory anymore. It was something else. Something active. Something real. Across the market, Don Julio stood near a quiet corner. Watching. He had seen the exchange. Not the words. But the body language. The tension. The way Nia's posture changed. The way the man leaned in. It was enough. He didn't step in. Didn't interrupt. He simply observed. Because that was what he did best. Understanding came before action. Later that night, he had his answer. The name Darius Cole didn't take long to trace. A file pulled. A history reviewed. Patterns connected. And then, the number. 50,000. Then more. Interest layered over time. The total had grown. Compounded. Expanded. Until it became something far beyond what it started as. Don Julio stared at the information in silence. His expression didn't change. But something inside him did. Because the source of the debt was familiar. Not just familiar. It was his. His network. His system. His structure. Everything tied back to him. Every name. Every transaction. Every move. And now, Nia wasn't part of that world. But she had been pulled into it anyway. Through someone else's choices. Through something she didn't control. And somehow, it had reached her. Don Julio leaned back slightly, his fingers resting against the table. So, controlled. But no longer unaffected. This wasn't just another account. It wasn't just numbers. It was her. And that changed things. For the first time in a long time, there was a crack. Small. But real. A shift in control. Because this wasn't external. This wasn't a rival. This was internal. Something under him. Something that had moved without his attention. That alone was enough. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't call anyone in anger. He simply gave an instruction. Clear. Direct. Final. The kind that didn't need repeating. And by morning, everything changed. Nia didn't expect anything when she opened her stand that day. She moved the same way. Set things up the same way. Tried to ignore the tension that had followed her home the night before. Malik sat nearby again, quiet, focused on his small drawings. The market filled as usual. Nothing looked different. Nothing sounded different. But she still felt it. That unease. That waiting. Then, a man approached. Different from the others. Cleaner. More formal. He held an envelope. Nia? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded. Yes. He handed it to her. This is for you. From who? She asked. But the man didn't answer. He simply nodded once and walked away. Nia stared at the envelope for a moment. Her name was written clearly on the front. Nothing else. She opened it slowly. Pulled out the paper inside. Her eyes scanned the words. What? Then again. And then. She stopped. Her breath caught slightly. The message was simple. Direct. Clear. Backhand index pointing right. Your balance has been cleared. Nia didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't react right away. Because it didn't make sense. None of it did. The pressure. The visits. The warnings. And now. Nothing. Gone. Just like that. She looked around the market. Everything continued as usual. People moved. Voices carried. Life went on. But inside her, Something shifted. Not relief. Not yet. Just confusion. Unsettling. Because she didn't know why. She didn't know how. And she didn't know what it meant. Across the distance, Don Julio stood still. Watching. Not approaching. Not speaking. Just observing. Because he already knew the answer. And she didn't. The paper didn't leave Nia's mind. Even hours later, even after the market had slowed and the sun began to dip, the words stayed with her. Your balance has been cleared. Too simple. Too sudden. Too clean. Nothing in her life had ever worked like that. Problems didn't disappear overnight. They didn't resolve themselves without explanation. There was always a reason, always a cost, always something behind it. And she didn't know this reason. That was what bothered her. She wiped down her counter slowly, her movements less automatic than usual. Malik sat nearby, quiet, drawing lines across a page, humming softly to himself. He was at peace. Nia wasn't. Her eyes lifted. And there he was, standing in his usual place. Not closer. Not farther. Just present. Like always. Like nothing had changed. But everything had. Nia stared at him for a moment longer than usual. Then she made a decision. Malik, stay here, she said gently. I'm not going far. He nodded, not looking up from his drawing. Nia stepped out from behind the stand. Her heart wasn't racing. But it wasn't calm either. She walked toward him. Each step steady. Each thought sharper than the last. When she stopped in front of him, he didn't look surprised. Like he had expected this. Did you do it? She asked. No greeting. No build-up. Just the question. He tilted his head slightly. Do what? She held his gaze. My debt, she said. The letter. His expression didn't change. I don't know what you're talking about. The answer came easily. Too easily. Nia frowned slightly. You always know what I'm talking about, she replied. He didn't respond. Didn't confirm. Didn't deny. Just silence. And that silence said more than his words. You asked me if someone was looking for me, she continued. Then suddenly everything disappears. Still no answer. Nia crossed her arms lightly, not in defense but in thought. That's not a coincidence. His eyes remained on her. Come. Unreadable. Sometimes things resolve on their own, he said finally. Nia let out a quiet breath. No, she said. They don't. Another pause. Not long. But enough. Something shifted between them. Subtle. But real. Because now, she wasn't just speaking to him as a customer. She was questioning him. Trying to understand him. And for the first time, he didn't have full control of that space. Why are you really here? She asked. The question was softer. But heavier. He looked at her for a moment. Then said, to eat. Nia almost smiled. Almost. But it didn't reach her eyes. You don't talk like someone who just comes to eat, she said. He didn't respond. And that only made it clearer. There was something about him. Something she couldn't place. But she felt it. The weight behind his presence. The quiet shift in the market whenever he appeared. The way people moved differently without even realizing it. She had ignored it before. Now, she couldn't. You're not just a customer, she said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. So, he gave nothing back. No confirmation. No explanation. Just that same steady gaze. And yet, for reasons she didn't fully understand, Nia didn't feel afraid of him. Not the way she should. There was tension, yes. Uncertainty. But not fear. Not the kind she had felt when those men approached her. This was different. Controlled. Measured. And that confused her even more. You could at least be honest, she said quietly. He looked at her. Then away briefly. Then back. I am, he replied. It wasn't enough. But it was all he gave. Nia exhaled slowly. She wasn't going to get the truth. Not today. Maybe not ever. But something had changed. She stepped back slightly. Not retreating. Just creating space. Fine, she said. And for the first time, she didn't press further. She returned to her stand. Back to her routine. Back to Malik. But her mind didn't settle. Because now, she knew. Not everything. But enough. Enough to understand that the world around her wasn't as simple as she thought. And that he was part of something bigger. That evening, the market closed later than usual. The sky darkened slowly, shadows stretching across the emptying streets. One by one, vendors packed up, conversations fading, footsteps thinning out. Nia packed her things carefully. Malik stayed close, quieter now, tired. Ready? She asked him. He nodded sleepily. She took his hand. and they started the walk home. The streets were calmer at night. Not empty, but quieter. Every sound more noticeable. Every movement more defined. Nia walked a little faster than usual. Not running, but not relaxed either. Something stayed with her. That feeling from earlier. That question without an answer. Halfway down the block, she noticed it. A car. Parked too long. Engine off. Lights dark. Nothing obvious. But something about it felt off. She kept walking. Didn't stop. Didn't look again. But she felt it. That same quiet pressure. Like eyes were following. Like something had already started. She tightened her grip on Malik's hand. "Stay close," she said softly. "I am," he replied. They turned the corner. Then another. The building came into view. Relief should have followed. But it didn't. Because the feeling didn't leave. It stayed. Followed. Waited. She unlocked the door quickly. Stepped inside. Closed it behind them. Locked it. Then locked it again. Malik moved toward the couch, already settling in. Nia stood near the door for a moment longer. Listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. Just silence. But it didn't feel safe. It felt temporary. She moved through the apartment slowly. Checking windows. Checking corners. Everything looked normal. But her chest didn't loosen. Because deep down, she knew. This wasn't over. Whatever had started was still moving. Still building. Still coming closer. And somewhere, not far from her, it was already too late to stop it. Back in the present, the shattered window, the broken door, the chaos in the room, Nia's breath uneven, Malik clinging to her, and him, standing there, unshaken, unmoved. Now, it made sense. Not everything, but enough. The visits, the questions, the silence, the control. It all connected, and the truth settled in. Heavy. Unavoidable. This wasn't random. None of it was. She looked at him. Really looked this time. And saw it clearly. He had been part of this from the beginning. Not just involved. Central. And when he spoke, the words no longer confused her. "I'm the reason they're here." Now, she understood. The silence after everything ended felt heavier than the noise before it. Nia stood in the middle of her apartment, her arms still wrapped tightly around Malik. His small body pressed into her, his breathing uneven, his fingers gripping her shirt like if he let go, everything would fall apart again. The room looked different now. Not broken, but changed. The door hung slightly off its frame. The shattered window let in cold air. Small pieces of glass still glittered across the floor. Nothing felt safe anymore. Not even her own home. Nia slowly pulled back, crouching slightly to look at Malik. "It's okay," she said softly, though her voice wasn't steady. "It's over." Malik looked at her, eyes still wide. "Are they gone?" he asked quietly. Nia hesitated for half a second, then nodded. "They're gone." He didn't ask anything else. He just held on to her again. And Nia let him. Her hand moved gently over his hair as she tried to calm both of them down. But her eyes moved. Toward him. Don Julio stood a few steps away. Still. Silent. Like everything that had just happened hadn't touched him at all. But it had. She could see it now. Not in his face. Not in his posture. But in the space around him. In the weight of his presence. Everything that had just happened. Connected to him. Nia slowly stood, keeping one hand on Malik. Her body felt tired. But her mind was clear now. Clear in a way it hadn't been before. She took a step forward. Then another. Until she stood in front of him. Close enough to see every detail. Every line. Every controlled breath. And this time, she didn't hesitate. "Who are you?" she asked. Not uncertain. Not afraid. Just direct. He looked at her. And for the first time, there was no deflection. No silence used to avoid the truth. No distance in his answer. He told her. Not everything. But enough. Enough for her to understand. Enough for her to see the shape of it. The structure. The power. The reach. The danger. And most importantly, his place in it. Nia listened without interrupting. Her face didn't change much. But inside, everything shifted. Because now it had a name. Now it had a form. Now it wasn't confusion anymore. It was reality. When he finished, the room felt even quieter. Not because there was nothing to say, but because what had been said was enough. Nia took a breath. Slow. Measured. Then she asked, "So everything happening to me leads back to you?" Her voice didn't shake. But it wasn't soft either. It carried weight. He didn't look away. Didn't hesitate. Didn't try to soften it. No, he said. Then paused. And corrected it. Yes. The honesty landed harder than anything else. Nia nodded once. Not in agreement, but in acceptance of the truth. Because there was no point fighting something that was already real. Her grip on Malik tightened slightly. Not out of fear, but instinct. Protection. Always protection. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The space between them filled with everything that didn't need to be said. Then, he stepped back. Just slightly. Not retreating, but creating distance. I'll fix it, he said. His voice was calm again. Controlled. Like it always was. You won't be involved anymore. Nia frowned faintly. What does that mean? It means, he said, this ends here. The words sounded final. Like a decision already made. I'll make sure nothing reaches you again. Nia studied him, trying to understand what that really meant. How? She asked. He didn't go into detail. Didn't explain the process. But she understood anyway, because she had seen enough. He wasn't talking about paperwork, or conversations, or warnings. He was talking about something else. Something final. Something absolute. I'll disappear, he added. That made her pause. You'll what? I won't come back, he said simply. You won't see me again. The words were direct. Clean. Like he had already accepted it. Like it was the only solution. Nia stared at him. For a moment, she didn't respond. Because that wasn't what she expected. Not after everything. Not after what he had just done. Not after what he had revealed. You think that fixes it? She asked quietly. He didn't answer immediately. It removes the problem, he said. Nia shook her head slightly. No, she said. It removes you. There was a difference. A big one. And she knew it. The room fell quiet again. Malik shifted slightly beside her, calmer now, his grip loosening just a little. Nia looked down at him briefly. Then back at Don Julio. Her thoughts moved carefully now. Not rushed. Not emotional. But deliberate. Because this moment mattered. More than anything before it. Fear was still there. Of course it was. She had just lived through something she never imagined. Something that proved how fragile everything was. How quickly things could fall apart. But there was something else too. Something that had been building slowly. Through the market. Through the questions. Through the silence. Understanding. Not complete. But enough. If danger follows you, she said slowly, choosing each word with care, then hiding won't save me anyway. The statement hung in the air. Clear. Unavoidable. She wasn't saying she trusted him. She wasn't saying she wasn't afraid. She wasn't saying this was safe. She was saying something else. Something deeper. That the world she was in was already connected to his. Whether she wanted it or not. Whether she walked away or not. And pretending otherwise wouldn't protect her. Don Julio watched her. Really watched her. Not with control. Not with calculation. But with something quieter. Something more human. For the first time. He didn't have an immediate answer. Because this wasn't something he could decide alone. This wasn't something he could fix with power. This was her choice. And she had made it. Not blindly. Not emotionally. But consciously. Nia stepped back slightly. Not away from him. Just enough to create her own space. Her own ground. I'm not choosing danger, she said. I'm choosing to see it. That was the difference. That was what mattered. The room felt still again. But not heavy this time. Just settled. Don Julio nodded once. A small movement. But meaningful. Then, he turned. Not abruptly. Not dramatically. Just turned. And walked toward the broken window. The night air moved through the opening, cool and quiet. He paused there for a moment. Not looking back immediately. Then, he glanced over his shoulder. Not to check. Not to confirm. But just once. As if acknowledging something unspoken. Then he stepped out. Gone. Just like that. Nia stood there, unmoving. Malik still close to her side. The apartment still damaged. The night still quiet. But something had changed. Not safety. Not certainty. But awareness. Clear. Sure. Real. And somewhere beyond the darkness, he remained. Not beside her. Not in front of her. But not gone either. Something in between. A presence. A shadow. A silent line between danger and protection. Not a savior. Not a promise. Just there. And Nia, for the first time, was no longer in the dark about it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more interesting videos.